My name is Tim Collarday, and I'm actually a volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club with a special Peace Garden project that my wife and I introduced here last year. And that's what we're responsible for, really, is teaching a class to the kids about peace and also showing them how to grow a couple of different gardens out behind the building.
How are things with the garden progressing so far?
So far, really well, although it's been very challenging because it's been a very dry summer. And so just about every day we've had to put water out on one of the gardens. Has no cover over it, it's just out in the open. So it really dries up very fast. So that keeps us busy. But we recently got our high tunnel greenhouse put up and with an irrigation system. So that's good to go, and we've planted some plants to get that going as well. So far so good. Very good year so far.
Can you reveal more in-depth history about the Native American garden and the medicine ball and everything?
Sure. Native Americans have been farming for centuries, hundreds and hundreds of years. And specifically, they know a lot about plants that were indigenous to this part of the world, the New World, Western Hemisphere, whatever. And there's that old story about the Pilgrims coming over and suffering because they didn't understand. They'd never seen corn before. They'd never seen squash or beans. All of that was native to this side of the world. And it was the Indians there on the East Coast that showed them the unique ways that these plants needed to be tended. So this is part of that heritage. We are growing many of those plants in this particular garden, the outside garden. It's in the shape of a medicine wheel, which is basically a circle with an X or cross through it. And each one of those quadrants in that circle represents a sacred direction, the 4 sacred directions, north, south, east, and west, and so on. And associated with each sacred direction is a sacred color, a sacred medicine, and we have the medicines out there. We teach the kids about these things, and they just eat it up. I mean, average American doesn't really know all that much about Native American culture. So it's a pleasure to be able to share those traditions with some of my ancestors or whatever. But this year, now that we have this high tunnel hoop house, we have expanded that part of the project into different ethnic gardens. So now that we've done that, we can represent all of the people who have ever called Flint home. So we have an African, southern United States portion of that garden. We have a European side and an Asian side and so on. So anybody that's ever called Flint home is represented there, and we can talk about the plants and what they meant.
How are the kids interacting with the plants?
The kids are just little bundles of curiosity and energy with this thing. They really enjoy. This year is the second group of kids. We had a group last season. So we're getting more experience going through this and kind of what to expect to see in the way of the kids' behaviors and so on. But for example, our group of kids last season was the first time that many of them had ever eaten greens before. Now these are inner city kids, and to us it came as like total surprise that you've never eaten greens before and you're living in Flint. What's up with that? So anyway, they're appreciating the flavors of the food. We weren't sure because these are vegetables after all, and kids with veggies and all that, but they absolutely love them. And they've loved squash when we've had all kinds of cold vegetables with dips and that sort of thing. So they're really into it, and they're also learning how to care for these plants. So we do the weeding and the watering, and we teach them low and slow on the water because they don't want it to splash all over the place and so on. So they're actually learning some skills and some important things about caring for something else as well. We think that's a pretty cool thing.
Do you think this will motivate people in the city to plant their own gardens?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was surprised to learn just a few weeks ago from MSU Extension that there's an estimated 300 to 400 garden projects going on right now in the greater Flint area, community gardens and urban farms and that sort of thing. So it's really kind of a silent boom industry, I think, in town. Obviously, we've changed a lot away from what we used to be about with automobiles and that, but even if you're unemployed or whatever your life situation is, if you're able to plant some seeds and have some space, to tend some crops, you're going to eat at the end of the day. And so that's part of our way of being able to show people a way out of food insecurity, which is just rampant in this town, as you would know. And that's a huge thing, too. That's a really great takeaway.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say or maybe recommend to anyone about this project?
Well, one of the things I guess that comes to mind as you ask that question is how much of the resources that we are using for this project are free. We get all of our seeds and plants for free. Seed Savers Exchange in Iowa gives us lots of seeds. Edible Flint here in Flint gives us seeds and transplants in the spring. They also provide compost, which is nutrient-rich soil that we mix with the other poorer soil that the plants are grown in. And they have people that come and till the gardens for us. So there's all kinds of things for little or no money out there, and there's no reason why anybody in a neighborhood somewhere or a church or whatever couldn't do a project like this. I get asked all the time by people, would you come and talk to our group about how could we start up a community garden? And I'm just happy to do that, and I wish we could have 500 or 600 of these gardens or whatever within a few years. There would be a lot fewer hungry people in our city. Why do we grow plants in the garden?
Because we need food to eat and we need fresh air to breathe.
Oh, yeah, that's a good reason. Kayla, what do you think? Why do we grow food in the garden?
Because helps the environment.
Helps the environment? Okay. Better than all that nasty smoke in the air and stuff like that? What is your favorite food that you have learned to grow this year?
I learned my favorite food to grow this year is corn.
Corn? Why is it your favorite?
Because it's sweet.
So you're learning some things this year. Do you think you'll grow some vegetables at home?
Yes.
Yeah? What would you grow?
I would grow some a cucumber.
A cucumber. How about you, Kayla? What would you grow?
Strawberries.
Strawberries. We got a lot of strawberries here too, don't we?
And I would want to grow cherries.
Cherries. Do you know where cherries come from?
Yes.
From where?
Trees.
Trees. That's right. You have to grow the tree to get the cherries, don't you? Hayden, you were just telling me what your favorite vegetable is. What is it and why?
It's the zucchini because the first time I had it, it was fresh from the garden and it was really good when I fried it up.
What did you like about it?
Well, it had a juicy flavor to it and the burntness to it took out most of the flavor and the juiciness. So
oh, nice.
yeah, it was just really good.
So did your dad grill it on a barbecue grill or what?
I really am not sure.
Oh, really?
I think he did it in a barbecue grill.
Okay. And your sister was telling me that you have some zucchini plants at home. Is that right?
Yes.
So how do you know how to grow them?
Well, I really don't because my parents do most of the gardening all the time. I weed here and I weed and water there.
Okay, all right. So you're learning a lot about weeding and watering. And we also have zucchini plants here, don't we? Mm-hmm. Yep, you notice those, you recognize them. We're here with Armando Fernandez, who's a local Flint artist, specializing in spray paint. You're like graffiti artist, or how did you get into this?
Well, actually, even though I lived in inner city Chicago, I never did graffiti.
Okay.
It's airbrushing. I learned it in '96. Never touched an airbrush until then, and it just became magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, last year, the Boys and Girls Club here in Flint hired you to paint these beautiful murals here in the inner courtyard of the Boys and Girls Club building. What was your inspiration for that, and why for, and so on?
Well, we got together, and you and your wife and Jamie and just a bunch of people talking about this idea, and the inspiration came from the kids. And then I ultimately, the inspiration comes when I have enough patience to be quiet enough to hear, and then I get these images and kind of a direction, and it's almost at that very moment, so it's almost spontaneous. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it comes from different places.
It's the creative process, and that's sort of the heart of your soul coming through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
But so many people have commented about the beauty of these murals, and then of course, it was so inspirational that the Boys and Girls Club hired you again this year to paint even more murals on the inside.
Right.
Tell
And
us about those.
Oh,
We'll get
that-
some pictures of those later, but
Yeah,
what's that all about?
that was a wonderful process too. Just like before, I felt the love. You guys accept me well, and it was.
What's the subject? What
The subject is
going on?
it's what is it? It's
the people
culture, the cultivating
in the plants.
of all over the world.
Sure.
So it depicts different people of different cultures, whatever is indigenous to that country, what they're cultivating, and so,
Yeah.
and it all ties in with the different people that live in this community. Hopefully,
Yeah.
some of them it doesn't appear to, but it all lacks in.
Well, I think a lot of people have commented about how you've really captured the spirit of the multicultural place that Flint, Michigan is. And you've got them up there on the walls, you know. We can see ourselves. It's like everybody's up there one way or another, and you captured that. And I think
Thanks.
that's the sort of magic and the gift of art.
Thanks. Area in particular, I put a person from one part of a country, and then I put the kind of plants that are indigenous to the Americas, corn.
Okay.
And this person is not an indigenous person to the Americas, so it was like bringing that together too. So that's also a metaphoric statement there, that there's this oneness, this unity.
Well, yeah, it's very cool because that is so much of what people are about. They move, they're mobile, and when they leave an area, they take their plants with them or
Right.
seeds or whatever.
Right.
And I think one good example of that we have showing here in our gardens is the potato. Potato
Okay.
came from this side of the world, the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
But it became a very important part of Irish culture. So we also planted a lot of potatoes in the European
Okay.
garden as well.
Okay.
So there's that kind of
Right,
trading, if you will,
Right.
between cultures.
Who was that dude that brought the peanuts from
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Africa, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
They
it's
started here and then they went to Africa, they came back, and there's a history with all of these plants, and that's part of the exciting thing with this
Yeah,
project.
yeah. That's cool.
Thank you
No,
very
thank
much
you. You
for
love me,
all
man.
you've done.
I love you,
I
man.
do. I love you too.